Welcome back to the Mind of Directors podcast. Today we have our special guest, the director of the film The Ballad of the Sun and Moon. Thank you for having me. So, for our first question, how does your product engage with audiences? First of all, my film intro's target audience is adults of ages 18 through 34. This age range is the typical target demographic of high fantasy films. These people would be drawn to the escapism and immersiveness that is given by fantasy films such as mine. This escapism is given to the audience through a fantasy film's inherent fictional, magical, and otherworldly universe. This fictional world is so unlike the real world that people are able to immerse themselves in the world and escape from the truths of reality. The fictional aspect of my film is presented front and center with how, in the opening scene of the film, there is a wizard character who uses magic to escape an attacker. Thus, my film would attempt to immerse this audience and offer them some escapism. This demographic would also be interested in the medieval fantasy setting of my film. Similarly to the highly successful Lord of the Rings series, my film is set in a medieval fantasy world where kingdoms, knights, and warriors exist alongside wizards, demons, and magic. I use typical medieval fantasy conventions like the character archetype of an old wizard, a bright forest, and the presence of swords and armor to convey this setting. This setting would attract and help immerse the target audience through the use of these conventions. Interesting. So how would your product be distributed as real media text? My film would be distributed to theaters by the company Warner Bros. Pictures and be advertised by them in theaters and across social media platforms. The reason for this is that Warner Bros. Films typically adhere to a target demographic of those who are 18 to 54. This aligns with the target demographic of my own film, so by partnering with Warner Bros., I am able to reach my target audience much easier. Additionally, Warner Bros. Has a history of creating and distributing incredibly successful fantasy movie series. Warner Bros. Has created and distributed the Harry Potter, Dune, Lord of the Rings, and the Hobbit film series. This shows that they have a clear, successful history with and experience marketing their fantasy films and have developed a large audience who enjoy these films. By having my fantasy film be distributed by Warner Bros., I would attempt to reach this same audience, likely increasing the number of people who see my film. As for distribution through social media, my film would be advertised on social media websites like YouTube and TikTok through trailers. These trailers would allow my film to reach a much wider audience, as anyone on these websites could see these trailers. By reaching this wider audience, I am able to advertise my film to more people, which may attract people who are less interested in the fantasy genre, but may be interested in just the action side of my film. These people would be drawn to the large-scale fights and action sequences present in many fantasy films, including mine.